You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
This episode is brought to you by Plugra European-style butter, crafted for those who demand precision and exceptional results in the kitchen. With 82% butter fat and a slow churn process, Plugra gives you flakier crusts, fluffier cakes, and rich, melt-in-your-mouth pastries. Because great baking starts with great butter. Unlike standard American butters, which have only 80% butter fat, Plugra ensures the ideal moisture and fat balance so your recipes turn out just right every time. That's why professional chefs trust Plugra and home bakers love it. Plugra's slow churn process creates a smooth, creamy butter that gives dough a soft, pliable texture, making rolling, folding, and laminating effortless. Whether you're perfecting a buttery pie crust or layering a delicate croissant, Plugra helps you bake with confidence. Experience the difference for yourself. Find Plugra in stores near you or visit plugra.com. That's Plugra.com.
Hi, I'm Peter Reinhardt, and welcome to Pizza Quest. Well, it's been a while since we've had the pizza Yodis, or we call the Yodis, are here. Brian Spangler and John Arena. We launched Pizza Quest as a podcast series with you two guys from the beginning, and every now and then we get you back. And I think it's interesting timing that we're having you back this week because this is the preparation week for the big Pizza Expo in Las Vegas. Now, neither Brian nor I are going this year, but John will be there. And as always, because John is based in Las Vegas where it's going to happen. In fact, right now he's working on preparing some doughs for one of the booths. Probably what is the Caputo booth, John?
Yeah.
So he's doing prep. And then next Sunday, the whole expo, phenomenon takes place. And so this will air that Sunday, the Sunday of the launch of Expo this year. This show will go on. We're speaking about a week before. But since I've got you here, and one of the things that we've been able to do over the last few years of our gathering is you guys are kind of like our pizza prophets, not only our Yodas, but you're the ones who tell us what's coming next, what's happening. You alerted us to the tavern pizza phenomenon that was about to, reemerge out of the cicada 17-year pattern. And we talked about bagels coming before the bagel thing exploded. We talked about sourdough pizzas before that all kind of took off big time. What can either of you tell us about what you see coming, since you are our pizza prophets, what you see as sort of next wave things that you're seeing from your perspective?
Well, just from what I've personally seen in my little bubble here, I think anything that's outside of like the shape of pizzas, I see calzones and strombolis. I've seen a lot more interest in stuff like that.
Huh.
But that again, that's just from and I've been so out of the loop, to be honest with you. Been focusing on things here at work, and my daughter's off in college, so and
life real life.
I've been focusing on things other than the industry.
And for those who are meeting you for the first time, Brian, you're in Portland, Oregon, Apizza Scholl. Yeah. Which you and I go back way back to the beginning of Apizza Scholl when it was actually in Shoal Valley or whatever, yeah. Oregon. Now you're in Portland, and consistently rated as one of the best pizzerias in the world. We've talked about a lot of that, but so those of you who are new to Brian, you can check out some of our earlier conversations with him. But so you're seeing basically in the Portland world, which is one of the culinary centers of the universe, things start there. It's an incubator city for food trends. Anything else that's happening in Portland that you think could have bearing on what's going on in the pizza world or in the culinary world in general?
No, I'm seeing, here in Portland, I'm seeing a lot of this. It's kind of like plateaued.
Oh yeah.
Well, from what
Yeah.
I can't speak for other people, but there hasn't been any new big trends that I've seen. I think there's also we've run into, and when I say plateau, I think we've run into where a lot of ideas have been kind of not necessarily exhausted, but a lot of rocks have been turned over. And I guess the one thing that I am seeing is it's not pizza related, although some pizzerias make them, is like getting into like the sandwiches,
Yes.
uh, classic Italian heroes, hoagies, whatever you want to call them.
Let's put a pin in that subject because I want to come back to that because there's a big sandwich competition this year at the expo. So let's circle back to that a little bit later and talk about sandwiches a little bit because I think you've hit on something there. I think that's going to have its moment again in the sun. So that's a good one. And then and of course Portland. Oh, I always see every time I look at any kind of news that's going on, there's always seems to be a new pizzeria opening in Portland. There's so many that have become, famous and destination pizzerias or making their mark. Is it crowded? Is it a crowded field there, or is there still plenty of business to go around?
I don't know how much there is to go around, because I can't even keep up.
Yeah.
It seems like at least a couple every month open up.
Really? Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, and some that I'm becoming aware of are further. I mean, there's a lot in within the city boundaries of Multnomah County, and, in Portland city boundaries proper, but there's still outlying areas that are 20, 30 minutes
right
out. So I'm hearing more and more of these areas that haven't really had these restaurants open, these pizzerias open, and that are finally getting people realizing that it's oversaturated in Portland. And
yeah.
Finally moving out to
out to the burbs.
Thank goodness.
Right. Well, has anybody moved back into your old space in Shoal Valley where Apizza Scholl's launched?
That almost instantly went back to the cafe. We opened that up in 2004. It was
20 years ago.
Right, 21.
Yeah.
Prior to that, it was called the South Store Cafe, and it was open from like 6 o'clock in the morning till I think 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It was coffee and pastries, quiches, and then lunchtime sandwiches, and then closed. And then not even the year that we were there, we did the pizza thing, and we all know that I got kicked out.
You too successful, right?
too much business, too much traffic.
What a story! Yeah, you're doing too well. You got to get out of town.
It was
good.
But it went right back to the South Store Cafe. So a different owner went in, who had been a patron of that space, and they brought back the South Store. They used the same name, brought back the same business model, and it's been going strong. I hear great things.
That's great. Did you warn them to be successful, but not too successful?
I think everybody in that township realized they didn't want to go for something that was going to draw too much attention to because it's a rural area. It's mostly like Christmas tree farms and filbert orchards and
it's
stuff like that.
It feels like it's like the Nike land. Isn't that where like Nike is headquartered out in that area?
Well, Nike is headquartered in Beaverton, which is about 30 minutes away. But Phil Knight was my neighbor.
That's how I thought. That's the connection. Yeah.
So he lives out in Shoals. Yeah.
Well, Phil's probably
about 25 minutes south of the Beaverton Hillsboro area.
Well, he's probably bemoaning the fact that now he has to come all the way into Portland to get one of your pizzas.
Yeah.
Well, John. Well, let's switch over to John for a second because now you're in what's going to the spotlight area now for the next couple of weeks. The whole pizza world is going to be focused on your town and the town that you really, I feel like you own the pizza in Las Vegas, although you're sharing it now with some other pizza superstars, but you're really, as we view the elder of the pizza community. You are the Yoda in everybody's hearts and minds. And I know this last year you've been kind of on a tour around the country, collecting your flowers, so to speak, getting tributes everywhere you go. I saw you speak in Philadelphia at the PizzaCon a few months ago, where you and Tony got up there and did the keynote and kind of shared highlights from your careers. But what are you seeing right now, John? You tend to, and again, you've got partners in the pizza world, and you've got other locations outside of Vegas. What do you see coming?
Pizza by the slice.
Aha.
Pizza by the slice is coming big, it's coming strong, and it's not just areas where you traditionally would think of as being great locations for pizza by the slice, which typically was just dependent on walk-by traffic. But now you're in places that are almost like destination pizza by the slice shops.
It's kind of like the whole country is becoming Patsy's or Joe's, where you can just walk by and pick up a slice. Well, that's a question that I had on my list to ask you guys about. Again, talks about saturation. People like Tony Gemignani, the superstar, the rock star of the pizza world, is opening a slice house franchise concept with a goal of opening hundreds of slice houses, and he's not the only guy. I've seen Siler Chapman's opening slice houses. Other pizza luminaries who have famous one-off places are opening slice houses. Do you think that there's enough room for everybody, and will this get oversaturated, or is it just the next logical progression?
I don't think we're at the point of oversaturation yet, because I think that right now the places that are opening are super high quality. They're all interesting unto themselves, so what town wouldn't want to have a Tony Gemignani pizzeria?
And I know you get to see some of these things. I don't know if you've seen any of the launches there. Are they able to really replicate that level of experience that people get when they go to Tony's in San Francisco or Pizza Rock in Vegas? Is the quality at these franchises really up to stuff?
The quality is outstanding. It's Tony Gemignani quality. Is the experience going to be the same? Probably not. I guess we could debate that. But as far as quality, it's light years ahead of what most of the areas that he's going to. He's concentrating mostly on suburban areas and areas that needed a really high quality pizzeria. And if there's anybody that can replicate quality, it's Tony.
Yeah, especially I guess. Sounds like areas where what people know of pizza is the franchises, the Pizza Huts and the Domino's and the multi-unit, large operations. So now this gives an alternative to that, an independent alternative to the franchise model. Would you say?
Yeah, and if you're only experienced with pizza by the slice with Sbarro's at the shop, walk into Tony's, you're gonna.
It's kind of like a generational thing. Don't you think we back 20, 30, 40 years ago, these were the companies that were bringing pizza to the masses. And now the masses know pizza. And we know from the Pizza Magazine folks that 50% of the pizzas that are consumed by the public are produced at these mass places, the multi-unit places. And the other 50% is shared by the thousands of independent, operators that are doing standalones or one-offs or limited chains and things like that. I'm guessing, and again, it feels to me like these two worlds are coming together, because we know from the expos and the various conventions that the big companies are sending their talent scouts to see what the independent guys are doing, and they're borrowing those ideas and then bringing them and trying to scale them up. The little guys who were always content with one or two places are now trying to scale up to be able to go toe to toe with the multi-unit places. How's that playing out?
I think that was inevitable maturation of the industry, right? We've got second and third generation owners that have been around for a while, and they're looking at the only way they can go forward is to have additional locations for a lot. Not for Brian, obviously, because he's got more business than he could ever. But for those of us that are average pizza guys, we look out there at the landscape and we say the only way we're going to be able to sustain ourselves is to grow.
Well, when you see it like an iconic brand like Frank Pepe's, which is now going franchise model, and some of the other, well-known brands. I don't know if Dom DeMarco's family is still planning to launch multi-units of their Brooklyn place, but it seems like, again, well, it's a new generation. The founders have all passed away. They've passed it on to their families. The families have to decide, are we going to stay in the pizza game, or are we going to get out and do something else? And if we're going to stay in it, then how do we survive? We don't want to have a single shop where I stand in the same place as my grandfather and keep making pizzas one at a time. I'm also hearing about another model that may be coming anytime soon. I know that it's still in development. I don't think they've launched their first place, but drive-through pizza places. Have you heard any inklings of the drive-through pizza places where you can drive up and order a slice, and the slice is actually prepared to order, not a whole pie, but an actual slice is prepared within 60 seconds in some kind of automated system to produce a high-quality sliced pizza that's been designed by a well-known pizza artisan. Have you heard about that?
No, not at all. Is this a reheat?
It's not a reheat. It's an actual system that is designed to be able to produce one slice at a time in some kind of, and again, I can't talk about it yet because I've only heard inklings of it, and it hasn't launched. But I know that it's in development. The other thing, and we're going to be interviewing in an upcoming episode, a fellow named Nipun Sharma, who's developing a robotic system for Donatos, which is relatively, it's a limited chain, but it's a national chain of high quality, pizzas mostly not by the slice, usually by the pie. But they're going to be doing one and he's going to talk about it in an upcoming episode. They're going to launch their model at the Columbus, Ohio airport in a kiosk. So it's really designed as a kiosk version of a well-known brands, or a way for even us. I'm guessing even if someone like Tony Gemignani will eventually be in airports, if he's not already. I think Nancy Silverton's got something in the airports.
Yeah, I
This
think
is a
Tony
way
just
for,
went into airport in San
so of course
Francisco.
Tony's is probably not going to be doing it robotically, but this is the model for people to be able to get into pizza without having to train a workforce. And so that's another big, I would say, a wave off the shore that's about to crash, is how do we deal with the need for trained workers when it's hard to find people who are willing to work as hard as our grandfathers and our fathers did before us, and how as hard as you guys have been doing all your lives. How do you find those kind of workers in a climate where people aren't looking for that? They're not looking to work as hard with their hands. They want to work more with their heads.
I think the robotic part of it is inevitable. Not maybe for the whole process. It's going to be, some places are going to go all in on robotics, and some are going to go partially in. They're going to be, they're using mechanical dough rollers, dough dividers, which have been around forever, and they're adding other components. And at Antonio De Sousa, his place uses robots to bring the food to the tables.
Ah, interesting. So it is, as you say, the march of time and progress is inevitable. It's going to happen, whether we like it or not, or whether we're afraid of it or not. Should we be afraid of it?
I don't think it's ever going to be a lack of demand for artisanal handcrafted products. You can judge whether or not there's going to be anybody left that wants to do it. That remains to be seen, but I think there are still some.
But you guys see, and John, you'll be there at Vegas. It seems like every year a whole new generation of pizza people who want to enter the pizza world, the pizza universe, new operators, whether they want to do a single shop or just find a way to get into the game. Is that still happening? Do you still see those numbers trending up? And is the desire for training and for learning the craft of pizza making as strong as it was a couple of years ago when we saw kind of a real bubble occur?
I think it's still strong. I think Brian can tell you this because he's besieged by people that are looking to learn how to do what he does. Which good luck to him. But he's always been on everybody's speed dial. So I don't think it's lessening up. I think that a lot of people, as always, find out once they get into it that it's a little more than they bargained for.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Well,
Um,
you go
a
ahead,
lot
man.
of people have no. A lot of people don't really. The romance is, in their dreams, and all this other stuff, and then when the rubber hits the road, it,
Yeah.
Let's put it this
takes a
way.
lot of that romance away.
When the honeymoon is over.
Yeah,
Yeah.
real quick.
Let's think they want to be in the pizza business. Put it that way.
And sometimes they get so deep into it that by the time they realize that, uh-oh, it's too late, they pass the fail-safe point and they're in, whether they like it or not.
Yeah, I still obviously here in Portland, we just talked about how many pizzerias are constantly opening up here, and I still see, I get contacted by people from all around the country, asking me questions, and I still see a lot of people wanting to open up and get into the game. Now, where it gets blurry is like the intention, because we all know that there's a lot of people in that are wanting to get in the game, and purely from financial, you know,
You're right.
monetary reasons.
Yeah, because
Time.
it's still a good business if you do it right.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm not knocking those people, but it's like suddenly, like I've been kind of joking the last few years. How many times do you hear this? Like, suddenly all these people are found during COVID found themselves at home, and like I found out that my pizza was my passion, and then it was like, okay,
Yeah, right.
just like everybody was like making sourdough bread during COVID and all that stuff. I just wonder how many people would like really started to discern like who's really in it for just the challenge, the challenge, because there's nothing easy about doing it well every day consistently. That's the hard part. Making a few at home is one thing as a hobby, but running it as a business. But is it the challenge? Is it truly the product that you're really passionate about, or is it just that you see everybody doing so well, and this just seems like an end game to get into something that for, again, monetary reasons or
Right.
some consistency or security, so to speak.
Well, you guys have both been in the game a long time. John, you've been in your whole life. And if I'm not mistaken, your dad in his 90s is still pulling shifts at uh at
Yep.
Metro Pizza, right?
Yep.
Okay, so like we're talking about lifers. And then but we also are talking about like, okay, what happens when, the patriarchs of the movement begin to retire or pass on, and the next generation comes in, what's going to happen? Brian, you're a little bit younger. You're a generation younger than John, but you've been in the game a long time. Can you both of you talk a little bit about the challenges that you face? Because I think we're now going to be seeing a lot of, we'll call them, for lack of a better word, the old timers, the old guard folks showing up at the expo, as well as all these young folks, and are going to be dealing with the what's next stage of your life, and how long can you do what you're doing. How do you grapple with those kinds of things, the planning for the future, and if you could share with us some of the challenges you face, in being in this for a long time, and all the times you've, whether it's hit the wall, dealt with fatigue, dealt with health issues, things like that people don't think about when they get in the game, but sooner or later everybody has to deal with.
Yeah, there's so many aspects to that, because it running a business, the schedule is open ended, right? Um, you can make plans and then have to cancel them very quickly. Every employee's problem is your problem.
Yeah.
So and then trying to like have raise a family, and I think one of the lessons that I learned too late was the fine art of saying no.
Mm.
Um, and there were a lot of times that I, said yes to things, and it was, it all, and it was the best intentions from me, but it ended up like impacting, you gotta have a life outside of all this, and you don't want to spend your time regretting missing on things, and and when you overstack and this is all from personal experience. I've overstacked my plate more times than I care to
Yeah.
think about, and it comes at a cost of mental health and missed opportunities, regret, um, and so yeah, I think I've gotten better at the fine art of saying no.
Mm. Which it sounds like that category you're talking about really is the work-life balance aspect
Yeah,
of being in business. And so, and I know, from over the years as we've had conversations offline where you're talking about, okay, I got to take a break. I'm stepping out for a while. I'm going to go on a retreat, or I'm going to just get away for a couple of weeks and let my team run the show because I need a break. Is
yeah,
is that what you're talking about in terms of finding the way to navigate that?
yeah. It's partially that, and it's also being contacted by so many people. And I had this conversation with Bianco about this. It's like you contacted by people you've never met before,
Yeah.
and you want to do right by trying to, like, because I got where I'm at with the generosity of people saying yes and allowing me in to you know learn from them and get experiences. And so I've been trying to, like, pay it back and pass the baton, so to speak. And
Yeah.
but you can't always say yes to the detriment of you're gonna miss out on some stuff. And it's kind of a yin and yang, because there are a lot, when I think about, like, regrets, like, there are a lot of times when my knee jerk reacted said yes and I regretted it, and there are a lot of times I knee jerk reacted saying no and I
Mm.
regretted it.
Right. Right.
It's almost like I kind of, like, now instinctively go, if I'm knee jerk reacting saying, going to say yes to this, I should probably say no, and vice versa.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's only life experience can, kind of get you to that place. Are you are
Yeah,
you at the point now, and John, I'll get to you in a second, but Brian, are you at a place now having done Shoals for over 20 years now, which
yeah.
again, it feels like just yesterday when you were just opening it, in Shoal Valley, but now it's 20 plus years. Um, First, we were talking earlier about finding employees and hiring people that can stay the course and that you can lean on, that are taking pressure off of you as opposed to putting pressure on you, and are able to keep those folks. And then two, what do you have, like, an exit strategy or an end game in mind for yourself, or where you think and how far you want to take a piece of Shoals before it's taken out of your hands, so to speak?
Yeah, so when it comes to employees, I've been very lucky, that I've found some amazing employees. And like, you remember Andres?
Yeah, we've had Andres on with you making
Yeah.
things. Yeah,
So he's been with me for 14 years now.
he's still there, right? He's hanging in there.
He is. He
Good,
is. He and I.
good.
He and I were just talking about this, the exit strategy, because he and I are both going to be exiting at the same time.
Oh,
Yeah. And then I also have Nick, and Nick's been with me now for 10 years. So I've been very lucky. Very little turnover in the kitchen, and it's always kind of been that way. Um, so very lucky in that respect. It definitely, it was a lot easier to. I can't even, like, really think about that right now, because it gives me anxiety
yeah,
of having to, bring in new people and replace really irreplaceable people in my business. So I just, I try to take care of them the best that I can. And but as far as exit strategy, on that level, yeah, I'm working on my exit strategy right now. I'm I'm going to be exiting in about maximum 4 years. My daughter gets out of college in about 3 years, so I want to make sure that I have the
Yeah.
home base and everything, get her through college, and then as soon as that's done, I'm going to be yeah.
Well, that's very strategic, and not too many people, are able to even think that.
Nope, we lost you. Excuse me. Did we lose every? Am I the only person live here?
I'm still live, Brian.
Okay.
Looks like everybody else's screen is frozen except for mine, and you're having the same problem at your end. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you froze, and John and I were fine. Yeah, we can hear you now.
There. Well, we're recording live, and so as usual, we're at the mercy of the digital universe. It looks like we got
Internet.
whatever Wi-Fi power or issues we had. We're back on. So where we left it, Brian, was I was asking you about in terms of your timeline. So what happens at the end? Are you going to be turning the company over? Are you going to fold it down? Do you have a plan in mind for that, or is it too soon to say?
Well, I've been planting seeds for quite some time now, seeing if anybody wants to take it over, and nobody really wants to take. I mean, the idea of them taking it over when they think about all the responsibilities and the layers of all that, no one really wants to step up to the plate, to be honest with you, because they see how much it takes, and
Yes.
they don't want all that. So I just want to work for somebody else and let them deal with all that. So
Interesting.
unfortunately, it looks like I'm going to be selling it off to whomever is interested and
Who wants the keys, willing to keep it going,
who's willing to keep it going.
whether
I've got a
they've
few
worked with
people
you
in mind.
before. Yeah. It's,
Yeah.
I know some strategies some people have is just to turn it over to the employees. Others are to sell it to a brand new, a fresh group that can come in with new energy and start over. But then you've got all this invested, this personal brand value that you've invested in it that's built on your personal craftsmanship and vision.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. I can't just, because my wife was like, let's just turn it over. And I said, if they're not willing to do the work and take it over, then
Yeah.
I can't do that. I want somebody who's willing to put in the work, and they will be the ones who will own it. And then if the current workers, just if they're here, want to continue to just be the employee, then that's what they'll be.
So, well, let's switch it over to John. John, you've been Metro Pizza's been in Vegas for what, 30 some years now?
44.
44. So 44 years. And of course, it's got the lifeblood of both your dad and yourself and some of the partners that you've brought along, Chris Decker and others who have been proteges and then partners. What's your plan for, for the next wave for you? But you're my age, and we know that we have to have a plan, even if we think we're going to work, as long as your dad is there, but we don't know. So how do you plan for something like that?
Next generation of family members and employees that have been with us for a long time that are like family members that will take over.
Is that your plan, is to just turn it over to them?
Yeah. We own the real estate, which was a good move for us. So that gives us something of value that we can sell. But as far as the business itself, most likely our key employees and family members that work for us will take over.
Well, I assume that you must have some great employees, and maybe they've got a piece of the action, or they're just employees. I don't know what, but anyone who follows you on Instagram knows that you're rarely in Las Vegas. It seems like you're always somewhere very interesting, whether it's Italy or somewhere around the United States at an opening of somebody else's pizzeria or one of your partners' operations, like down in Dana Point or whatever. You're on the road a lot, so you must be able to leave the premises and know that the place is in good hands.
Absolutely. We were able to continue on after Chris moved to Dana Point, and he was a key part of everything, as you know, Chris Decker. And if we can go on from that, I think we're in pretty solid shape. But it is something that everybody's dealing with. You know, Jonathan from Spocanopoly, right now, his goal is to find a way to turn his business over to his employees as a kind of collective.
And that's in Chicago, and
People,
again, that was a sort of an artisan operation with a small team. Um, Everybody, as we get older, some people, can dodge health issues. Some people are dealing with them head on. How about yourself? I know that you've gone public with some of your health challenges. Can you talk a little bit about that, especially for the people who are listening who say, "Hey, how's John doing?" I hear, he came out on one of his Instagrams talking about, dealing with Parkinson's. What's that like?
it's actually given me another thing to pay attention to and maybe be helpful to another community outside of pizza. We created the John Arena Foundation with the World Pizza Champions, and we're creating
Wow.
events that keep people moving, keep their hands moving, keep their minds moving, learning new skills. So the whole premise of the John Arena Foundation is to build alternative neurological pathways through giving people other activities to participate in.
Interesting. Well, can you talk about that directly in relation to Parkinson's? Are we finding that therapeutically speaking, that keeping hands moving and there are ways to build neurological pathways?
Right, because obviously Parkinson's results in a degeneration of neurological pathways. And what they've found is that if you continue to learn, there's no cure for Parkinson's, but you can slow it down considerably and minimize the effects by keeping active and learning new skills, whether it be hand skills, physical activities, intellectual activities, learning a new language. If you keep doing those things, your degeneration is much less pronounced and slowed down considerably. So that was the purpose of the John Arena Foundation, was to create culinary events for people so that they can participate with their families, still cook for their families, still learn new skills, engage in something that's very social, which obviously Making Pizza is a very social event.
Well, pizza's, one particular, obviously, hand skilled based craft. Are there other areas that the foundation, like if someone says, I get it, I understand what you're saying, but I'm not a pizza guy, but what else can I do? What are some things that I can do to have that same therapeutic benefit?
Learn a musical instrument, learn a
Ah,
new language, drum,
Trump. Uh-huh.
whatever activity interests you. My feeling is always that it's better to participate even at a minimal level than to do nothing.
True.
The thing you're playing is your TV remote. You have problems whether you have a neurological disorder or not. Learning new skills, you're constantly acquiring new skills and studying and engaged and active. It does you a lot of good. So that's the whole idea of the programs that we create. We had a very successful first event at the Cleveland Clinic in the Ruvo Center here in Las Vegas. We're doing an event the day before Expo that will with some of the World Pizza Champions.
What happens at these events? Is it demonstration based or is it
No,
participatory?
no, everything we do is participatory.
Wow.
Everything we do is designed to get people out of their chairs, standing up and moving and interacting with other people.
And any monies that you raise or that the Pizza Champions raise on behalf of the foundation, how does that money get deployed?
That money goes to organizations that are creating activities. The idea, Pete, was that I wanted to do something for people right now, not so much based on research, but based on activities that will help people today. What can I do for people that have Parkinson's that will help them today, not sometime in the unpredictable future?
Awesome.
And it worked for me. I mean, I was diagnosed, it's going on 11 years now, but I also had symptoms probably 2 or 3 years before that. But I'm still able to work. I'm still able to travel, as you know, able to speak publicly. That's
Well, I
completely
think it,
of being immersed in activities all the time.
yeah. the fact that you've had this, you've known this for, over 11 years, and yet very few other people have known it. They, a few people who are close to you have known that you've been dealing with it, but most people, it's new news because they didn't realize that, you've been doing, you've been fighting this fight. Um,
But that's an important thing too, Pete. It's important to show people who are possibly facing a similar challenge that you can continue on, that your life doesn't have to be over. I see so many people that have Parkinson's that just, as soon as they're diagnosed, they sit on the couch and they never get up again.
they throw in the towel.
I don't want to be down. I want to keep answering the bell. And if I can, there's nothing special about me. If I can do it, a lot of other people can do it too.
Well, we really appreciate that, and thank you for, kind of speaking now openly and out there about it and explaining to people, because I'm running into more and more people that are discovering that they have either Parkinson's or some other neurological condition, because I'm of an age and a generation where the odds are going to catch up with, a higher percentage of people are going to deal with this kind of stuff. To know that there are things you can do, not only physically for yourself, but for your well-being, for your morale, for your sense of positive outlook.
Yeah, and it's helpful to be part of a community, to be an active part of a community. And if you're of that particular mindset, to get out there in the public and inspire other people to go on and live a good life. And it's really possible. It's important.
Well, I'm going to throw it back to Brian for a second here, Brian, because you spoke about, you having sort of a plan now, an end plan, and I've known you for a long time. I know that you're never at a lack for things to do. Pizza's not your whole life. You've got a
No.
lot of interests, you're a guy that's loaded with interests and can do a lot of things that you love. What's your plan for when when pizza's no longer your front burner item, but that you're now moving into what I call act three, moving into your next act? Where do you see your energy going?
Well, I still haven't traveled a whole lot in my life, so there's still that I need to experience. Um, so that's going to be part of it. And anybody who knows me knows that, yeah, idle time and me do not, idle hands
Yeah.
do not work. So currently, I've been restoring on light levels because I don't have as much time to do it as I would like with running a business. But I restore pinball machines.
That's what I was thinking about, those pinball machines of yours. That's got to be something that you want to sink your teeth into more as you have time.
Yeah, I'm doing on light levels right now. I've got a couple projects that are waiting for like the full dive in, and I'm not there yet. We're talking like really like from the ground up, so they really need a lot of attention. I've got all the pieces in place, right? So I'm doing work, the planning stages. So I've got about 4 projects there. I've been doing light restorations of jukeboxes. I just finished. I learned how to recount speakers
Oh,
recently, so I
uh,
just recounted speakers on a 1956 Seeburg jukebox that I've been working on.
are
Uh,
jukeboxes coming back in a big way?
they have been in the last 5 or 6 years with the vinyl resurgence.
Yeah.
That obviously has carried over into the jukebox is also becoming very much the popularity and interest in the hobby has grown quite a bit
Mm.
in the last 5 or 6 years.
Are there
Um,
digital jukeboxes too that just play CDs instead of vinyl?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
so it was in the late 80s, early 90s is when CD jukeboxes started to become more of the standard. Everything up through the mid to late 80s was 45s. And then I want to say with the internet and everything, it was in the early 2000s. Then you started getting streaming
Yeah.
jukeboxes
Yeah.
where it was like you could pull up anything as long as you had an internet connection, you could like, basically pick any song in the world. The ones that I gravitate towards are the 50s,
Yeah.
the Silver Age. I like to see the moving mechanism.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's something
45.
about the fidelity of those vinyl discs that seem to be different from all the other mediums that convey the music.
Oh yeah, the old mono jukeboxes from the 50s. They have a bass that hits hard. The warm tube amplifier sounds. I like working on the mechanisms. They're very daunting at first, but if you have any sort of an engineering mind, they're well documented. So all I have to do is pull out the 600-page manual, and the answer's in there somewhere.
Well, like you say, I don't think you're going to be,
No,
hard pressed to find things to keep you busy. But I do.
no, and food still is part of that too. I cook pretty much every day. Been doing that, and I make Mexican food pretty much every day now.
Do you foresee yourself getting back into artisan bread baking and making loaves beyond just loaves for yourself, but loaves for the markets or for the masses?
I was just thinking about that recently. I do in time. I think I need to step away from the business of making dough in order to.
Uh-huh.
I need to have a break from
Uh-huh.
that world to do it for pleasure.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at pizza and bread in the same way for a long time, and I was when people were like, "Oh, I'm really passionate about this," and I'm like, "Don't confuse your passion and business. Like, business can kill a passion real quick." So I would need some time away from it. What I have been doing lately, though, speaking of Mexican food, is I've been learning the fine art of making tortillas, which is very hard.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. It's I dabbled in it earlier, but I know I'm only focusing right now on corn tortillas, not flour. I haven't even
Uh-huh.
gotten there yet.
Yeah.
But just the amount of moisture, the right amount of heat, the size, thickness, thinness. Because I'm trying to get the puff every time
Uh-huh.
where they basically look like pita. Like if you're doing it right when they
They
scan like
split.
pita.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that something Andres has helped you with? Is that in his wheelhouse?
He's never had much experience. I mean, he's worked in tortillerias, but they were all mechanized.
I see.
Because
So
they're making like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tortillas. So yeah, it's all machine based, and
that's it.
so
Well,
he doesn't really have any help for me as far as
yeah.
what I'm doing, which is like doing it by hand.
Well, it's number one, got yet another new thing to sink your teeth into, to master. But
And now I'm into metal models too. Have you heard about these?
no.
Yeah, basically they print out these sheets of metal using lasers to like cut all the parts out, and I'm working on these models that are like 600 pieces, and they're not glue. It's like pieces of metal with tabs
Oh,
that you bend or fold to like put them all together. So like some of these pieces are the size of a grain of rice.
wow. So it's
So
kind of like a metal jigsaw puzzle, so to speak.
yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And then there's no written instructions. I mean, there's like these diagrams of like this part number,
Yeah.
fold it. This attaches over here, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
part of it's like you got to figure out some of it. You got to
Well,
use your brain.
yeah, again, going back to what John was saying, for those for takeaways from today's conversation with the Yodis is, keep your brain engaged, keep your hands engaged, keep doing things, because we're all getting older. Everybody sooner or later is going to be, saying, okay, what else can I do when I can't do this, or or in order to continue to grow as a human being. And I really appreciate both you and John today, Brian, for sharing kind of like your own your journey, where you're at in this stage of the journey. And it's been, if we were to go back and chart the 10 or 12 years that we've been doing Pizza Quests together and recording with you guys, it'd be interesting to see how this progression is playing itself out.
Yeah.
So and we'll keep checking in because we want you guys back frequently. What I'd love for you to do, and for those who are listening and maybe picking up on this particular broadcast during the Pizza Expo itself, is look for John. He's going to be all over the floor, right, John? You have a particular place where people would find you at Pizza Expo?
Yeah, and definitely come up and say hi.
Where will you be hanging mostly?
I sometimes hear people say, "Oh, I saw you at Expo, but I didn't want to bother you." Bother me.
There you go.
Not a bother.
And will you be mostly at the Caputo booth or some other? Do you have other?
No, I'll be with the World Pizza Champions mostly. I'm doing a demo at Maraforni.
At Maraforni.
Get old, Pete. They don't ask you to do as many things.
Yeah.
So I think I've aged out of Expo. For the most part.
Yeah, exactly. You and I remember we've done demos together there, and it's hard work. Will you be tracking the competitions this year? I want to circle back, Brian, to the sandwich competition, because I noticed in the schedule that this year there's going to be a sandwich competition. They've already filled up the roster of, I think, 30 competitors, and they're only going to limit it, put a cap on it. Do you know anything about that competition, either of you, or John especially?
No.
I do. I think it's a response to the fact that Antica Vinayo came to the United States and people looked at what they were doing there, which is sandwich concept where they bake their own focaccia or scacciata or whatever the bread is. And I think a lot of pizza makers looked at that and said, "Hey, I can do that. I have all the tools and I have all of the equipment and the skill set." So that started to become a thing, and a lot of pizzerias are baking their own bread and making their own sandwiches. The sandwich component has become a bigger part of Expo.
Well, do me a favor and if you get a chance to check in on those guys and let us know if you see any really exciting ideas that you'd want to share in a future episode of Pizza Quest. And I'll also try to find somebody, maybe one of the judges from that competition, to give us a report on the various kinds of sandwiches that were presented, because I think, Brian, you noted that sandwiches are a coming thing. They've always been here, and we always view sandwiches as something that kind of rises and falls in popularity. But I think we are on the verge of yet another upswing in serious interest in the art of sandwich making, and what makes for the same things that make for a great pizza make for a great sandwich. And so we want to explore what those are and what those ideas are in future episodes. So let us know. If you're at Expo, look for John, bother him if you can, let him know that that you heard about it here. And Brian, you and I, normally me and John sit on a panel and answer questions from the crowd at our Tinkering with Your Dough panel, but we're sitting this year's out. So I don't know what they're going to put in its place, but I said a great roster of speakers. So check the website, and it'll give you all the speakers that are going to be there. And look for John at the Maraforni booth and throughout the show. And otherwise, just come back here and join us next week for another episode, and we'll keep you posted. And we're going to continue following up on some of the things that we talked about here today, including sort of the next generation of pizzerias, whether it's slice houses, robotics, drive-throughs, you name it. The pizza world is continuing to evolve, and we're going to keep track of it here, and we'd like you to be a part of it. So thank you, John. Thank you, Brian, both of you, for joining us again, for being our Yodis, and for being inspiration to all the other people that are out there. Keep up the great work, and we'll see you all soon. We'll see all of you on the next episode of Pizza Quest. Thanks for joining us.
Pizza Quest with Peter Reinhardt is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.